Welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got some big news to share with you here today. We have this report that just broke that Russia apparently blew up a major dam, the Kurakhove Reservoir Dam, flooding several villages in the Donetsk region. This is in southeastern Ukraine, where a lot of the fighting is ongoing right now. There's also some reports that the Ukrainians may have done this also to prevent a Russian advance. So we're going to try to dive into this some more and do our best to get to the bottom of this to find out what may have happened here. But what's being reported is major flooding in this area near the city of Kurakhove, just to the west. This is video footage that came out on X showing the dam supposedly that was destroyed, and anything west of the Vovcha River that you can see right here was apparently flooded, okay? So it looks like the water was able to travel pretty deep and flooded several villages nearby. So we'll be discussing that some more today. I also have an update for you guys regarding a video that I put out yesterday that supposedly last week on Thursday, on November 7th, Donald Trump had a phone call with Vladimir Putin discussing the war in Ukraine and also warning Vladimir Putin not to escalate this war. And during that phone call, supposedly Donald Trump may have been supportive of a plan to allow Russia to obtain the territories that they currently have taken from Ukraine. So all of eastern Ukraine that is currently occupied by Russia, they will be able to retain this land. And there would be some sort of demilitarized zone that would be created on the eastern side of Ukraine, and they'd kind of freeze the war. Well, we have a report today that just came out, and thank you to some of you down at the comment section who let me know about this information. Supposedly, the Kremlin coming out now and denying that phone call did not take place. I've got a video for you guys to show you from the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, allegedly denying the fact that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin did not hold that phone call. So very interesting information, coming out today. So we'll talk about that also. We also have reports of major strikes in multiple cities. I think Zaporizhia, Kryvyi Rih, and also Mykolaiv inside of Ukraine. Heavy airstrikes last night being reported. And also I have some updates coming out from the Kursk region of Russia to share with you as well. So let's go ahead and start diving into some of this news, and let me share this information with you. We're going to hop on over here to X for a moment. From War Translated Dmitry, pure fiction. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov denies that a phone call between Putin and Trump occurred last week. Earlier, Washington Post reported that a call took place where Trump looked favorably at an agreement where Russia would keep the new territories seized partially from Ukraine. One of the callers was BBC Steve R. So we've got a 53-second clip that appears to show Dmitry Peskov in a interview, and he's allegedly denying the fact that Donald Trump and Putin held this phone call. So take a look at this.
Washington Post сообщила, что Трамп поговорил с Путиным. По словам собеседников издания, Трамп в частном порядке дал понять, что поддержал бы соглашение, при котором за Россией останутся новые регионы. Скажите, пожалуйста, действительно ли был разговор, по чьей инициативе он состоялся, и правда ли Трамп говорил, что поддержал бы мирный договор, при котором за Россией остались бы новые регионы?
Знаете, это наиболее наглядный пример качества той информации, которая сейчас публикуется, иногда даже в достаточно уважаемых изданиях. Это полностью не соответствует действительности. Это чистая выдумка. То есть это просто ложная информация.
Да, вот просто уточнение. Не было тогда телефонного разговора Путина и Трампа, да, на прошлой неделе, вы хотите сказать, да?
Я только что это сказал.
Я просто уточняю по поводу содержания, или это сам факт. То есть не было разговора. Понял.
Не было разговора.
Washington Post сообщила, что...
All right, so there you go. He clearly said in this interview that there was no phone call that was held and this was false information. So I don't know what's really going on. Do you think that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin held this phone call? Some people would say that maybe Russia's lying. Maybe this phone call actually was held, but we obviously don't really know yet. Maybe more information will come out on this. Maybe Donald Trump will come out and say something. Who really knows? But the Kremlin did deny that they supposedly held this phone call with Putin, okay? So, or with Donald Trump. So we're going to go ahead and move on to some more updates now. And I wanted to show you guys this from Darth Putin. This is actually a parody account on X, and it says, Trump, I told Putin not to escalate. Me, 12 hours later, Russian forces have blown up Kurakhove Reservoir Dam, Floodwaters are approaching villages in Donetsk region. Okay, so just kind of like a joke that was thrown out from this parody account on X, and we're seeing lots of memes starting to pop up now that, 1 minute there's a phone call being held between Trump and Vladimir Putin. Trump's telling Putin not to escalate the war, and then all of a sudden the war is escalating. And for the last probably 4 days, 3 or 4 days, we've definitely seen major escalation with this war. We've seen heavy airstrikes inside of Ukraine. We've seen some of the biggest drone attacks being exchanged from both sides. So definitely the war is escalating. When at the same time, if this is true that Trump and Putin held his phone call and Trump told Putin not to escalate, well, maybe that didn't happen if the escalation is continuing. So it's hard to say, but let me know what you think down below. So now I'm going to show you guys this report coming out from United 24 Media regarding the Kurakhove Reservoir Dam that was destroyed. So it says here Russian forces have blown up Kurakhove Reservoir Dam. Floodwaters are approaching villages in the Donetsk region. This just coming out today, November 11th, 2024. Here's a picture of the Kurakhove thermal power plant, which is no longer in operation right now. I'll show you guys some information about that here in just a little bit. This is the Vovcha River. This is the reservoir that was created for the thermal power plant, and the dam nearby here was destroyed, allegedly. Okay, so Russian forces have blown up the Ternivska Dam at the Kurakhove Reservoir in the Donetsk region, causing water levels to rise near the settlements of this is going to be a tough one to say, Velikonovo-Silkivska, that is a long word, community. This was reported by Junior Sergeant and Squad Commander of the 24th Adar Assault Battalion, Stanislav Bunyatov Callsign Osman. The Russians blew up the Kurakhove Dam, resulting in flooding in several villages toward Bahater. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right either. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Roads are still usable, but with some limitations, and movement of armored vehicles on dirt roads around these settlements is, of course, restricted, he said. Head of the Kurakhove City Military Administration, Roman Padun, noted that inspecting the dam near the village of Stary Turny, part of the Kurakhove community, is currently impossible due to ongoing shelling. However, water levels are rising in villages along the flow of the Vovcha River. Now, the fact they say there's ongoing shelling near this dam makes me think that it is possible maybe the Russians did shell it, whether it was done on accident or maybe on purpose. The fact that there is shelling in the area, most likely coming from the Russians, then that makes me think that it is possible maybe the Russians did destroy this dam. But that's what's being reported today. Let me know what you think. Do you think the Russians did this to maybe flood the region, cause massive chaos, and where a lot of people have to flee? Or do you think maybe the Ukrainians supposedly did this to prevent an onslaught from the Russians moving forward? Okay, so we're going to show you some other updates here from the Kurakhove region. Also from Glasnost Gone, people mistakenly posting first pick as Kurakhove Reservoir Dam in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, but it's the dam bridge at Kazoravichi. Hopefully I'm saying that right too, in the Kiev region, blown 26th of February 2022. That's going to be these top two photos up here. Apparently people were sharing some photos on X that were not correct. This was actually some sort of dam or bridge up in the Kiev region that was destroyed. Okay, so however, military reports Russia today blew up the Kurakhivsky dam at Stary Turny near Kurakhove picks 3 and 4, causing some flooding. So here's some photos that were shared from Glasnost Gone showing this other dam that was destroyed up in the Kiev region. So this is not the one we're discussing today, but here's some pictures coming out, just like the video footage that I showed you guys on the waiting screen when you came in. So this is the dam supposedly in question that was destroyed near the small town of Stary Turny. Here's another picture, kind of like a bird's eye view of the area. Here's the Vovcha River. Here's the town of Kurakhove. I think this is the thermal power plant in Kurakhove right here. And just over here on the west side, close to the town of Stary Turny, is where this dam was supposedly that blew. So anything west of this dam here, for the most part, flooded is what we're hearing now. We haven't seen any satellite imagery coming out yet, but probably in the next 24, 48 hours, we will see that those images start to come out of flooding in these areas, and we'll be able to give you guys an update on that. But this was some Google Earth screenshots that were shared to show you where exactly this dam was located at. Again, this is in the Donetsk region in southeastern Ukraine, not too far away actually from Pokrovsk. It's probably about 80 kilometers or so, I think, from Pokrovsk, just a little bit southeast of there. So, Geo Insider, Kurakhove Dam, what we know till now. Ukrainian sources, including Sergeant Stanislav Bunyatov, say Russia blew up the Kurakhove Dam. Sorry, guys, these words are just killing me today. Flooding villages toward Bogatyr. Bunyatov, a member of Ukraine's 24th Assault Battalion Adar, describes the damage as leaving nothing alive in its path. According to the Ukrainian side, the flooding has limited the movement of armored vehicles on nearby roads. Kurakhove city's military administration chief Roman Podun has also stated they can't fully inspect the dam because of the damage. Russian sources, meanwhile, claim the opposite. They say the Ukrainian armed forces blew up the dam to block the Russian advance near Kurakhove. They argue that Ukrainian forces did this to slow down Russian troops who had reportedly reached the village of Sontsovka and were moving toward critical supply lines for Ukrainian positions around Kurakhove. So, see, there are some reports indicating that maybe this was the Ukrainians that did this, so don't know for sure 100% yet. We'll wait for more information to come out. But let me know what you think down below. I think strategically it could have been Russia or Ukraine, but according to the information that we're seeing coming out from lots of sources, this is most likely Russia that did this to flood many of the villages nearby. Here's that video footage full screen for you guys showing that this dam allegedly that was destroyed on the western side of this reservoir, okay? So we'll move on to some more updates now. We've got another report here from Nexta. Wall Street Journal writes, Ukrainians have dismantled the Kurakhove thermal power plant for spare parts. Ukrainian electricians have been keeping the power plant in the Ukrainian-controlled town of Kurakhove running since the beginning of this year. But after Russia began advancing, they were ordered to dismantle the facility. Anatoly Boryshevsky, the head of the power plant, told the Wall Street Journal newspaper. According to him, other damaged facilities needed generators and transformers, so about 1,000 workers at this power plant began dismantling in the spring. Boryshevsky noted that it was difficult, but they had no choice. Kurakhove is a town in the western part of the Donetsk region. It is 46 kilometers from Donetsk and 30 kilometers south of Pokrovsk. It is the largest settlement in the southwestern part of the Donbass. Here's a picture of the thermal power plant in Kurakhove. So, yeah, looks like this place is, for the most part, not in operation. It's been dismantled at this time. And, this is obviously due to the Russians advancing, getting closer to the city. They probably don't want the Russians to gain access to this facility and take it over, utilize it, whatever it might be. So they figured they'd dismantle it, take the spare parts, transport these spare parts, which are probably in very low supply for many other thermal power plants around their nation. So it looks like this Kurakhove thermal power plant is no longer in operation, okay? Also, we have some reports now of these attacks from Russia last night in multiple cities in Ukraine from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. Kryvyi Rih, an ordinary 5-story apartment building hit by Russian terrorists with a missile. The first to fifth floors of one of the stairwells were destroyed. So far, 7 people have been reported injured, including 2 children. Emergency rescue operations are underway, with everything being done to save lives. People may still be trapped under the rubble. Every day, every night, Russia unleashes the same terror. More and more civilian objects are being targeted. Russia only wants to continue the war, and each of its strikes negates any claims of diplomacy from Russia. Ukraine needs weapons to defend itself against Russian terror and stronger global support to make diplomacy real and effective. Without principled decisions and strong support for Ukraine, Russia will have no motive to pursue peace and will only continue choosing new targets. So definitely major statement coming out from Volodymyr Zelensky. Here's an image from an apartment building that was directly struck from a Russian missile. And we definitely had heavy attacks last night. Not only Kryvyi Rih was hit, but multiple other cities. So major damage done to this building, and most likely people being injured, potentially even killed in these attacks. So very, very crazy to see this. Also from Dennis Smile, this is the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Zaporizhia, Kryvyi Rih, Mykolaiv, all night and morning, Russia terrorizes peaceful Ukrainian cities and kills people. The enemy hit residential buildings. There are casualties. Emergency and rescue operations are underway. There may still be people under the rubble. Ukraine needs more weapons and resources to protect its population, and Russia should not escape punishment for its crimes. Anyone who kills peaceful Ukrainians must answer for their actions. This is the only way to achieve a lasting and just peace. So, he's definitely got a point here. I mean, lots of residential infrastructure that I report all the time being targeted inside of Ukraine. And a lot of times it's these same cities, okay? It's Kiev coming under attack a lot lately. Zaporizhzhia has been getting hammered like crazy lately. Same with Kryvyi Rih and Mykolaiv, okay? So these are different images coming out from these cities. Looks like some more damage done to another apartment building here. Here's even more damage. Looks like the corner of this unit got directly hit, probably from a drone. Lots of drones were fired again last night in Ukraine. Here's a direct hit, looks like from a missile striking another building inside Ukraine. And here's that same photo that we just saw from Volodymyr Zelensky. So again, heavy airstrikes last night inside of Ukraine, targeting residential buildings in this country. So very crazy and sad to see that, guys. So now we're going to move on to some updates. I got a couple here for you from the Kursk region from War Translated Dmitry. Commander of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, has been working with units engaged in combat in the Kerchnia area. If not for the resilience of our soldiers, tens of thousands of enemy forces from Russia's best assault units would be attacking our positions towards Pokrovsk, Kurakhove, or Toretsk, significantly worsening the situation on the front, Syrsky said. The situation in Kerchnia remains extremely tense. The Russian army, reinforced by North Korean mercenaries, has been relentlessly assaulting our positions for 3 days, losing equipment and personnel, but our soldiers have not lost a single meter, said Ukrainian serviceman Kirilo Sazonov. Okay, so we have been hearing a lot coming out from the Kursk region that the Ukrainians, for the most part, are holding. There was a time period, I think it was like last month, beginning of last month, where the Russians had launched a major offensive. So you can see these red areas is a lot where Russia launched their offensives. The orange indicates claimed Russian advances, but not completely confirmed yet. And the blue area indicates where Ukraine is currently holding right now. Now, they have lost quite a bit of land, probably about almost half of the territory in the Kursk region that they originally gained in the beginning of the offensive. And you can see here, this is from the Institute of the Study of War, by the way. A couple updates here. Geolocated footage posted on November 10th indicates that Russian forces advanced south of Novo Ivanovka. This is right here in this area where the Ukrainians are currently holding on the western side. Also, geolocated footage posted on November 10th indicates that Ukrainian forces have advanced north of Novo Ivanovka, so also making some advancements on the western side of the territory they currently hold in the Kursk region. Then also geolocated footage posted on November 10th indicates that Russian forces advanced south of Pogrebki. So also the Russians making some gains on the northern side of the incursion as well. Okay, so for the most part, it looks like the Ukrainians are holding out, but they are losing a little bit of land here and there in some reports. And we got a few photos here of Oleksandr Syrsky meeting with the top military officials in Ukraine discussing the Kursk region. So, so it looks like for the most part, Ukraine is still holding out, but they are definitely matched up against what has been heard of as 50,000 Russian troops, along with upwards of 10,000 or more North Korean soldiers. So the Ukrainians definitely have their hands full in the Kursk region right now, and they're trying their best to hold on to it. As for negotiations, leverage from the Kursk region could be very useful and vital to Ukraine when they start to negotiate against Russia to try to end this war. And at the same time, Oleksandr Syrsky has a point here that if they did not open up this offensive in the Kursk region, then these 50,000 or more Russian and North Korean troops would be on the Eastern Front, which right now is currently struggling right now. Okay, so big update coming out from the Kursk region. We also have another update here from Bliskovka. Sometimes the occupants storm Ukrainian positions in the Kursk region at intervals of about 10 to 15 minutes. They continue meat assaults, even despite heavy losses. This was stated by Colonel Vadim Miznik, spokesman for the Seversk military unit. Their tactics here do not change. They keep trying to attack first with the help of equipment, and then when we knock out the equipment, they continue assaulting with small groups of infantry. So it looks like the Russians continue what many people claim over here is meat assaults, well, they'll just launch lots of infantry at the same time, along with heavy equipment. and then these tanks and vehicles will probably be destroyed in many cases. Then soon after, they hop out on foot and attack with infantry groups, okay? So looks like things are very tense up in the Kursk region right now, according to this information. Also from Max 24, I cannot predict the intentions of a U.S. administration that does not yet exist. But I know that the European Council has just confirmed the commitment of the European Union to support Ukraine, and I came to Kiev to convey this signal to you, according to Joseph Borrell. He is the vice president for the European Council. The 10-year security agreement, which the EU signed with Ukraine in June, remains in force. We support it and will continue to support Ukraine, he said, and we will do it not because we are very friendly and very generous, but because it is in our interest. Security of Ukraine is part of our security, Borrell added. So it looks like the EU is very supportive of Ukraine still, even though we're hearing that Donald Trump may get into office, put heavy pressure on this war, maybe even pull the U.S. support away from Ukraine. Looks like the EU is still going to remain committed to supporting Ukraine. So that's good news for Ukraine. At least the EU will still be supporting them. Also, from War Translated Dmitry, the main intelligence directorate stated that Russians are using fake drones to attack Ukraine. We have heard about this before. Since October 2024, Russia's used more than 2,000 UAVs. About half of them are decoys and fake targets used to distract and overload Ukrainian air defense. One of these fake drones is called Paradia and is one of the most used. These drones do not have a warhead, are cheaper than Shaheds and smaller, but due to the presence of Lundberg lenses, they radar imitate real drones. Okay, so we have been hearing a lot about these fake drones being used by the Russians. They have lots of different styles. Sometimes they're made out of like cardboard. This looks like it could be made out of cardboard or something similar to it, or wood in many cases as well. They'll resemble an actual drone, but with no warhead to, basically make the Ukrainians waste their air defenses on them. And also to distract from maybe other warhead drones that have warheads on them coming into Ukraine to confuse Ukrainian air defenses, so that way the ones with the warheads can actually make it in. So we definitely have been seeing a lot of this from the Russians, and here's some pictures apparently from these drones that have been found, these fake decoy drones, okay? So very interesting coming out from there. Also from Max 24, the US and UK are preparing to blow up underwater fiber optic cables that provide the entire world with internet, according to Nikolai Patrushev, who is a member of the Russian, or he's a Russian politician, excuse me. So so looks like Russia is accusing the US and UK of preparing to blow up underwater fiber optic cables, okay? These provide internet to the world. And some people would say, well, now we know what the Russians are planning to do. I've been seeing lots of people indicating that maybe this is something that Russia might try to do, that maybe they're projecting their plans to blow up these underwater fiber optic cables. Now, is Russia going to do this? Is the US and UK planning to do this? Who knows? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about who blew up Nord Stream and the pipeline. So this would obviously be really bad, right? If these underwater fiber optic cables were destroyed, this could definitely disrupt internet a lot throughout the world. And maybe this would be a big plan right before a war about to break out between NATO and Russia. Who knows what's going to happen here? But this is some interesting information coming out today. Let me know what you think about this down below. Okay, also, from Max 24, Poland is planning to create an alliance in Europe to support Ukraine in connection with Donald Trump's rise to power in the U.S., the Times citing a statement from Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. We will actively coordinate cooperation with countries that share our views on the geopolitical and transatlantic situation, as well as on the situation in Ukraine. No one wants to an escalation of the conflict, but no one will allow Ukraine to weaken or capitulate. This would be a serious threat to Poland and our interests. The alliance may include Great Britain, the Nordic countries, and the Baltics. So it looks like Poland right now is trying to put together an alliance in Europe. These are many of the nations that border with Russia and Belarus right now, basically a lot of the frontline nations, and they're trying to work together to form an alliance to also continue supporting Ukraine. It's kind of the way that I see this, as if Ukraine were to fall, then these these other nations that are close to the front line would be next. Okay, they'd be up next to fight the war against Russia, and obviously Europe's security is very important when it comes to Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine is holding back the Russians right now, and if they're very concerned that Russia may move on and attack another European nation, well, then it makes sense to continue supporting Ukraine, and that's kind of what Donald Tusk is preparing right now in terms of this alliance that they're trying to form. Okay, also from Max 24, President Duda, this is Andrzej Duda from Poland as well. Ukraine must protect itself from Russian imperialism and become part of the free world. Today, this imperialism is trying to destroy our neighbor, which we support with all our might and which we deeply believe will also be part of the free world together with us. According to him, Ukraine should restore its borders, which existed not only until February 2022, but also until 2014. Europe alone will not be able to defend itself against Russian aggression without the participation of the United States, especially at the current low level of defense spending in many European countries. He emphasized that even 3% of GDP for defense is not a sufficient step to protect against Russian imperialism. So definitely, like I said, Poland is preparing right now. We already know they're preparing for war with Russia. They seem to be very concerned about what's happening in Ukraine, and Poland is also a very big supporter of Ukraine. They've sent lots of weapons and ammunition over to the Ukrainians for them to continue fighting. So Poland definitely making some moves right now to get ready to potentially continue defending Ukraine without the support of the United States, and also preparing for a potential war with Russia later down the road, okay? So also we have this report from Anton Gurashenko. Russians' bank deposits may be frozen to avoid crazy inflation. Alexei Zubets, director of the Institute of Socioeconomic Research, back in 2014, Russian retirement accounts were frozen already when Russia annexed Crimea. So Russian people know fully well this is a possibility and might happen. Russian economy is not well. Putin knows it and is trying to hide it. So we have been talking a little bit about the Russian economy. I've been talking to you guys about the inflation that's hitting Russia right now. They're preparing, I think, next month in December to raise the key interest rate from 21%. I think upwards of maybe 23% is what is being reported they could go up to. So they definitely have very high interest rates in Russia right now, which is very indicative of high inflation. And looks like potentially Russia could even be freezing Russian bank deposits, okay? And it looks like that could be the case. So let's show you this information. We've got this little interview that was going on here, and just take a look at this real quick.
Рубли ЦБ, вернее, не ЦБ, а Минфин и там еще правительство государства может печатать сколько угодно, то есть возможно эмиссия. Но то, что придется каким-то образом ее ликвидировать, разбирать эту пирамиду, это, в общем, совершенно очевидная история, мы об этом только что говорили. И дальше вот вопрос, как ее разбирать. Одним из способов, я не хочу сказать, что это единственный способ решения проблемы, это, да, заморозка части накоплений, избыточных, да, какой-то избыточной части накоплений, которые накопили люди за последние годы в банках. Рубли...
Okay, so very interesting, right? Freezing savings accounts of citizens in Russia to potentially starve off this crazy inflation that's happening inside of Russia right now. Now, let me know what you think down below. Do you think that Russia's economy is unstable right now? Or do you think that for the most part things are okay? Because there have been lots of reports as well that Russia's economy is actually very strong right now also. So I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. Again, some more updates in regards to Russia's economy that it definitely does not appear to be doing very well right now. Okay, so moving on to another update. Special Kherson Cat. One of Shahed kamikaze drones launched by Russians failed to reach the Ukrainian border and fell on a building in Belgorod, Russia on the 5th of November. So just about like 6 days ago, looks like a Russian Shahed drone that was supposed to be destined for Ukraine ended up striking a residential building, taking a direct hit in the Belgorod region. So we have seen this before. We've seen lots of strikes in the Belgorod region, even glide bombs that missed their targets inside of Ukraine, falling very short and landing inside of the Belgorod region. Now, I don't know if anybody was affected by this strike, but it definitely struck the building directly, and as you can see, caused major damage and some fires that broke out here. So pretty insane to be seeing that just about 6 days ago when that happened. Also from Jurgen Nonnet, U.S. Congress rejects new aid package for Ukraine, according to the Huff Post. Republicans in the United States do not support the passage of new financial aid package in the near future, said the press secretary of the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Europe, it's your turn. Okay, so we have been hearing a lot about this, that not only Donald Trump, but even Congress, considering that Congress is Republican held now with the Senate, the House, and also the Supreme Court, they're most likely going to be starting to cut off funding to Ukraine. It looks like that's already even beginning before Donald Trump even takes office, okay? So expect this to be the case as soon as Donald Trump gets in. We're definitely going to see massive amounts of support being cut off to Ukraine. And if you notice, he says here, Europe, it's your turn. So he's basically saying that Europe's going to have to step up and start helping out Ukraine, as the United States has been sending the bulk of the aid over to Ukraine recently. So let's see what happens over here. It's definitely going to get interesting. Finally, one last thing from Nexta. Starmer and Macron will try to convince Biden to give Ukraine permission to fire Storm Shadow missiles deep into Russia before the inauguration of the new president. In this way, they want to disrupt Trump's efforts to reduce U.S. support for Ukraine, the Telegraph newspaper said. There are hopes in London that Biden will finally give approval, the newspaper writes. Now, this is interesting too, right? Now, would Biden lift support or lift the permission for Ukraine to be able to strike inside of Russian territory using Storm Shadow missiles, for example, or the Scalp EG missiles? And we do know that France is going to be sending, I think, 10 more Scalp missiles over to Ukraine very soon. And Ukraine is still receiving British Storm Shadow missiles. So this could get very interesting as well as time moves on. Let's see what happens. I think we're going to see some desperate maneuvers from the Biden administration. We've already been seeing that in terms of aid. They're trying to fast track aid support over to Ukraine right now. Before Biden gets out of office, I think somewhere upwards of $6 billion in support for Ukraine is going to try to get fast tracked as much as possible before Donald Trump gets in, because once Trump gets into office, he could potentially halt a lot of these shipments going over to Ukraine, and that could be the end of it when it comes to support for Ukraine. So let me know what you think down below with all this news today. Definitely a lot of information coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine to update you on today. But if you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.